Pay close attention. The news you're about to see is fulfilling Bible prophecy.
Welcome to another edition of YPN News, bringing you the news that relates to Bible prophecy and foretold by Yeshua Hawkins Katan. We have quite a variety of articles that we're going to cover this evening, including the United States is 7 months ahead of schedule developing a new gravity-type nuclear bomb, so 24 times stronger than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Wow. We'll talk about those details, and also Ukraine was very successful in launching a surprise drone attack against Russia, wiping out about 30% of their bombers, their airplanes that carry their larger bombs. So we'll have those details. And also we'll continue to discuss the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. People are starving and there is no relief in sight. But first, we're going to talk about there is a new warning out for an old disease. The Centers for Disease Control is urging travelers to take precautions as cases of measles around the globe are on the rise this year. Now, due to the high risk of infection, the CDC recommends international travelers get fully vaccinated before they leave. Currently in the United States, there are just over 1,000 cases of the illness, including 42 new cases that popped up this week. Now, these are mainly in unvaccinated people. However, some we are not sure of their vaccination status.
That's right. In the state of Colorado, they are experiencing the second outbreak for this year, which began with 3 passengers of a Turkish airline flight who tested positive. Now, of these 3, 1 adult did have the measles shot. The difficult thing about the disease is that it is highly contagious and can linger in the air for several hours after the person leaves. Well, a medical contributor for ABC News, PhD John Brownstein says, quote, measles is one of the most infectious viruses that we know of. Make sure that you're vaccinated and your risk for measles goes way down, he said.
Well, just days after Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the Health and Human Services Secretary, said there would not be any recommendations for healthy children and pregnant women to receive vaccines. Now, the CDC is saying, quote, all children may receive measles shots with doctor's guidance. Now, this language is softer than a previous announcement that, quote, strongly recommended vaccination for everyone over 6 months of age. And now pregnant women have no recommendation at all.
Interesting. Well, the Pacific Ocean and residents along its coast are experiencing what some say is the biggest environmental crisis facing the United States today. But what is causing it? Well, please take a look at what's going on and how it's affecting those not even on the beach.
Now to a pollution crisis being called one of the biggest environmental disasters in the U.S. It's unfolding in one of the most beautiful areas of the country. This morning, new calls for action as a years-long pollution crisis grows worse on the West Coast.
We are standing in one of America's greatest environmental disasters.
Experts say up to 60 million gallons of toxic waste are flowing from the Tijuana River in Mexico into the Pacific Ocean each day. As a result, some beaches in Southern California have been closed for years. Now, a new study warns of the growing health risk for people up the coast as far as La Jolla, north of San Diego.
We've seen an increase in reported cases of children who now have developed asthma, allergies, sinusitis, migraines in kids. It's extremely concerning. This is beyond what the crisis in Flint, Michigan was.
The problem not just in the water, it's also in the air.
the pollution that flows into the ocean and then is aerosolized or kicked up as sea spray is really impacting the people that are nowhere near the beach. So you could be standing in your backyard, walking down the street, shopping for groceries, or you could just be a child at school and you could be breathing in sea spray.
The air conditioning in our car did not stop the stench from coming through. It did not. We were smelling this all the way down the road.
Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey joined local officials demanding federal action. Some blame Mexico for the pollution. Others say American factories in Tijuana also contribute to the problem. The EPA is proposing a plan to work with Mexico to find a solution.
This is an attack and an assault on the health and well-being of thousands and thousands of people.
Katan, that's a pretty nasty situation. 60 million gallons a day, not a month, not a year, a day of sewer dumping into the river there, the lake. Yeah. And now people are experiencing the mist from it and having to breathe it even if they're not in the close proximity. So that is quite a situation that they're having to deal with.
Yeah, especially when you think of what you're actually breathing in, right? And all that goes with it, it kind of turns your stomach a little bit.
It is going to lead to the respiratory illnesses there that some people are starting to suffer. Well, there is a new cholera outbreak, and this time in Sudan's capital of Khartoum. Now, there have been dozens of deaths recorded by the health ministry there, but thousands of suspected cases looming as the illness spreads rapidly. Now, health officials fear and put out the warning that Sudan is standing on the brink of a health catastrophe.
That's right. Sudanese Health Minister Haitham Mohamed Ibrahim tells reporters, quote, "We have been assessing the pandemic situation in Khartoum as more cholera cases were rapidly reported over the past week." Now, close daily monitoring proves clearly that the number of cases is increasingly growing from 100 cases per day up to 1,000 as of today. This is a proven pandemic infection which requires swift and firm intervention on all fronts.
Well, but this health crisis is only being made worse by the ongoing conflict in Sudan, which is in its third year. Now, drones have targeted water purification stations, destroying clean sources of water and forcing people to use contaminated water as their only source, hence the cholera outbreak. Now, additionally, there have been power outages and healthcare facilities struggle to keep up with the increase in people coming down with the illness. And Katan, you can't replace a clean drinking source, clean water source for people. Everybody needs that.
And you think about when people are in situations where they're dealing with extreme thirst and they have water, but it's not the cleanest. When they have to make the choice of not drinking something or satisfying and quenching that thirst, they're going to go with what's available.
Right. Sadly, people are going to take the risk.
That's right. Well, the unthinkable is taking place in Gaza at this time. Food is so scarce and being heavily limited by Israel that starvation has begun to be a reality for the people of Palestine. Please watch this video segment showing how people are having to travel in hopes now of food only to be turned away empty-handed.
An assault on human dignity. The words used to describe Israel's forced starvation of an entire population. Palestinians in Gaza are having to fight for their food, another reminder of the dehumanizing treatment imposed upon them.
I fought to get this for my children. Look at me. I have no flour, no oil, no sugar, no food. I collect moldy bread and feed it to my children. I want to get a bag of flour for my children. I want to eat. I'm hungry.
The only form of aid being distributed across the Strip is under the control of a private organization backed by the US and Israel. It's called the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, and it's been accused of weaponizing aid.
We went to this new area and we came out empty-handed. What they are saying about their will to feed the people of Gaza are lies. They neither feed people nor give them anything to drink.
Only 3 of the 4 distribution points set up by the GHF are functioning, which are meant to serve more than 2 million people. None of them are in the north. Palestinians are having to walk tens of kilometers in the summer heat to reach these centers, many to return empty-handed.
Katan, the situation in Gaza doesn't seem to be getting any better. In fact, it seems to be getting worse. And not having some of those food distribution centers open, in fact, only a few of them now are supplying the people with the food. But, you know, traveling so far, exerting energy only to be told we don't have any more food, that is a tough situation.
That's right, sure is.
Well, we continue our reporting in that region as we're going to take a look at a UN Security Council meeting over the ongoing conflict in Gaza and the humanitarian crisis. Now, in this video, courtesy of Al Jazeera, you'll hear the testimony of a trauma surgeon and an ambassador of Palestine to the UN, Riyad Mansour, tearfully speaking about the suffering of his people in the region. Now, some of his testimony, it might be difficult for some of our viewers to hear, but this is the brutal face of war that many don't know about. Take a listen.
The UN Special Coordinator for the Middle East, Sigrid Kaag, came to the Security Council to demand the UN be allowed to resume aid operations in Gaza, as Israel's ambassador attempted to deflect blame for the suffering.
Well, we are not bombing the people of Gaza. We are fighting a terrorist organization.
An American trauma surgeon conveyed the despair he saw in Gaza, saying he did not treat a single combatant while volunteering in Khan Yunis.
My patients were 6-year-olds with shrapnels in their heart and bullets in their brains, and pregnant women whose pelvises had been obliterated and their fetuses cut in two while still in the womb.
Children are dying of starvation. The images of mothers embracing their motionless bodies.
Palestine's ambassador broke down when describing the crisis, calling it an attempt to convince the people of Gaza they have no choice but to leave if they want to live.
Mr. President, since Israel broke the ceasefire in March, over 1,300 Palestinian children have been killed, and around 4,000 have been injured. These are children. Children. And still, a war against barbarism. Children. Dozen of children are dying of starvation. The images of mothers embracing their motionless bodies, caressing their hair, talking to them, apologizing to them. It's unbearable. How could anyone tolerate this sorrow? Excuse me, Mr. President. I have grandchildren. I know what they mean to their families. And to see the situation of the Palestinians without us having hearts to do something is beyond the ability of any normal human being to tolerate. Flames and hunger are devouring Palestinian children. Flames and hunger are devouring Palestinian children.
You know, that's difficult to hear. I mean, we know about these things that take place in these war-type situations, but it's not always brought so clearly to the surface like we heard with the trauma surgeon and the ambassador, you know, mothers crying over their children and the damage that the surgeon was actually seeing taking place with mothers carrying children being mutilated, you know. But like was said, that is the face of war. Sadly, it's the civilians that suffer the most.
Right. It was brought very clear and with a lot of emotion, you know, and as he was saying that, you know, I have grandchildren, you know, and so he's putting himself there and having the empathy for the situation, and he's saying anybody who can just let this go on, you know, there's something not right about that, to not try to help these people.
Right, and you could feel that hopelessness because he probably feels like there's not much he can do to relieve the suffering of the citizens of Palestine. Well, the conflict between Russia and Ukraine has been a seesaw of quote-unquote victories. Well, this time, Ukraine launched drone attacks from within Russia, taking out some 30% of Russia's strategic bombers with simple drones that cost as little as $500. Well, more than 40 aircraft were damaged while they sat parked on the tarmac. The planning for the attack was a year and a half in the making, and they actually smuggled these drones into the country using shipping containers.
Well, the containers were equipped with retractable roofs that could be opened remotely. And when it was time to strike, Ukraine did just that. Now, President Zelensky did not inform the U.S. beforehand. President Trump has criticized both leaders, Putin for attacks that have targeted civilians, and both for not coming to an agreement, leaving Trump to threaten leaving the negotiation table. Now, as a note, this conflict has been ongoing for 3 years now.
Wow. Well, you've heard of Israel's missile defense system called the Iron Dome. Well, U.S. President Donald Trump is proposing a plan to create a space-based missile defense system for the United States called Golden Dome. Well, this, of course, in hopes of countering advanced missiles from countries like China and Russia. Take a look at this next video for more on the topic.
This is the threat America wants to stop. Missiles from adversaries like Russia and China hitting US soil. Donald Trump says he has the answer, a vast space-based missile shield he's calling Golden Dome.
We have officially selected an architecture for this state-of-the-art system that will deploy next-generation technologies across the land, sea, and space, including space-based sensors and interceptors. And Canada has called us and they want to be a part of it. So we'll be talking to them. They want to have protection also. So as usual, we help Canada do the best we can. This design for the Golden Dome will integrate with our existing defense capabilities and should be fully operational before the end of my term.
In principle, it is similar to Israel's Iron Dome, which protects it from threats from neighbouring countries. It can track and neutralise missiles pretty much within a 70-kilometre radius. But the Golden Dome is a system on a much, much larger scale. Trump's fleet of space-based satellites will protect the USA from Alaska all the way to the southern border and the Gulf of Mexico. But is it even possible?
He talked about a near 100% effectiveness against air and missile threats. And the vision calls for not just the means to defend against intercontinental ballistic missile attack, but hypersonic cruise missiles, uncrewed air systems, air-breathing threats such as cruise missiles, as well as conventional air attack. All those areas can be achieved. The United States can, with its ground-based interceptors, provide a limited defense against lower-end intercontinental ballistic missile threats. NASAMS, for example, and Patriot are used every day in Ukraine to defend against multiple air-breathing and short-range ballistic missile threats, and even the Russian Zircon hypersonic missile has been intercepted by Patriot, reportedly.
The cost of the programme is also an issue. Trump says he will spend $175 billion and hopes it will be operational by the end of his term in January 2029. But the Congressional Budget Office estimated that the Golden Dome could cost as much as $831 billion over 2 decades.
Katan, there's quite a big difference between Trump's proposed $175 billion to the estimated $831 billion price tag. Mm-hmm. So it's actually named very accurately a Golden Dome with a price tag like that. But, you know, it'd be interesting if the U.S. actually did accomplish this, because we've seen like the Iron Dome and how Israel uses that quite a bit there in, you know, in their situation. But for the U.S. to have one, it's an interesting undertaking for the President of the United States.
Right. And you know, he's actually not the first person to propose this. This was proposed long a time ago, and I believe President Reagan's administration with the program called Star Wars. Star Wars. And it was a satellite-based system to basically take down incoming ballistic missiles from places pretty much like Russia. Now, China might have been in the picture, but it was mostly dealing with Russia or USSR at that time.
Well, President Trump saying very confidently we can get it done before he leaves office.
Yeah, 2029, right.
Well, continuing on with the U.S. arsenal, a new nuclear weapon that the U.S. is developing is currently 7 months ahead of schedule. The U.S. hopes its production will deter threats while modernizing the U.S.'s nuclear arsenal. Now take a look at this next video from News Nation and determine for yourself if the U.S. is making a smart or mad move. Take a look.
A new nuclear weapon is being quickly developed for the United States military. The bomb that can be dropped from planes is 7 months ahead of schedule. Defense officials say it's an urgent need to deter threats and modernize the military's nuclear arsenal. Our Nick Smith joins us now. Nick, what more can you tell us about this new weapon and the need for it?
The weapon is necessary because we are in an arms race of sort. The U.S. accelerating production of its latest nuclear weapon, the B-6113 gravity bomb. It's a move driven by escalating global tensions with major powers like Russia and China. They are the terrifying weapons that can wipe out life on Earth, and they're only getting stronger.
What everybody understands around the world is strength.
This is the B-6113, a gravity nuclear bomb with an explosive force 24 times more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb. While devastating, Russia's RS-28 Sarmat missile carries warheads twice as destructive, and China's DF-41 missile can target multiple locations simultaneously.
They're working on the next generation.
That's why Sandia National Laboratories is collaborating closely with the Air Force and other agencies, cutting production time by over 25%, 7 months ahead of schedule.
And we have to go faster, work harder, and get better.
Something our government says is a top priority.
The People's Republic of China are building 6 combatants per year. They're actively building aircraft carriers, and they're getting better, and they're building at a high rate.
Unlike Russian and Chinese missile-based warheads capable of striking multiple targets simultaneously, the B-6113 is aircraft delivered, first from the stealthy B-2 bomber, and later on the B-21 Raider, expected by 2030. Officials stress the B-6113 replaces older models without increasing total U.S. nuclear weapon numbers, but it represents a critical upgrade at an increasingly dangerous time.
We now find ourselves in nothing short of a new nuclear age. An unprecedented mix of multiple revisionist nuclear challengers who are uninterested in arms control or risk reduction efforts, each rapidly modernizing and expanding their nuclear arsenals, and openly threatening to employ nuclear weapons to achieve their aims.
And the reason this is so important, this move aligns with America's nuclear posture review, highlighting continued U.S. commitment to deterrence amid evolving global threats.
Wow. Well, you know, instead of reducing, which the United States was really trying to work with Russia at one time to reduce nuclear arsenal, we're modernizing. And like you mentioned there, this MAD is actually a mutually assured destruction that many countries, including those with Russia, coming from Russia, said that, hey, the use of these nuclear weapons on any type of scale is going to assure destruction for everybody involved, right, even those not involved.
And it's kind of interesting because it's kind of out with the old, in with the new. We're not increasing, we're just updating, so therefore we're keeping our level of nuclear weapons at the same number count.
Yeah, and they wouldn't have to necessarily increase the number because the yields are greater than what they
24 times stronger than the bomb, the gravity bomb dropped on Hiroshima.
And those small bombs, one of them affected like over 250,000 people. Right. So that's
powerful.
Unbelievable. Well, Pete Hegseth, the U.S. Secretary of Defense, spoke at a security summit in Singapore to warn U.S. allies of the probability of China launching an invasion in Taiwan at any moment. Now, he also let U.S. allies know at that summit that the United States is there to stay and will not be pushed out of that region, and that the U.S. was prepared to fight and win in the event of war in that area as well. Well, Mr. Hegseth said, quote, the threat China poses, is real and it could be imminent. We hope not, but it certainly could be. And that is something that we know, as we've been reporting, the threat is definitely real, not only from China, but from several of the other countries that we mentioned, with Israel, with Russia, Ukraine, and obviously with the United States as well. So the question, begs to answer, are we moving in the right direction as a society, or are we moving closer to death and destruction?
Right. Well, we definitely see the nations, United States, saying, hey, we're 7 months ahead on our latest gravity bomb. China, they are producing their weapons, upgrading, producing more, a lot faster than the United States is. So it seems like everybody is just gearing up for war, not gearing up to have peace.
Right, and even some of the leaders in the United States military commented on the fact that some of these missiles that China and Russia have developed, there's nothing that we can do to really fight, because these are like hypersonic missiles that can evade even our radar detection.
Right. They're not going to come out and say they're concerned with it, but you can tell they're concerned.
That's right.
Well, if you'd like to find out more about these stories, contact the House of Yahweh. And when you do, don't forget to request your free copy of the monthly newsletter and Prophetic Word magazine. Here's how. To contact them, you can write them at The House of Yahweh, P.O. Box 2498, Abilene, Texas 79604. You can call them at 1-800-613-9494. Visit them by going to any of their websites. You can go to yahweh.com, YisraelHawkins.com, or Yahweh'sBranch.com. If you'd like to visit our website, you can go to YPNnews.com. For any emails, you can email info@yahweh.com. For any international calls, you can call the number that's on your screen. And once again, don't forget to go and check out two great, excellent Bible study programs completely free. The Yisrael Says program by going to YisraelSays.com, and the Ask Yisrael program by going to AskYisrael.com.
Well, get your pencil and paper and your scriptures and pay attention, because up next is another classic sermon by Yisrael Hawkins. For all of us here at YPN News, I'm Katan Alexander.
And I'm Jeffrey Heimerman.
Thank you for watching.